Rockingham County News and Information. Mike Moore Media.
Welcome to the June edition of At Home with ADTS, a monthly radio program about the supports and services offered by Aging, Disability, and Transit Services of Rockingham County. I'm Ashley Cooper, the Director of Adult Day Services at ADTS. I will be your host today. ADTS has been in operation in Rockingham County since 1973. Formerly known as the Council on Aging, our goal is to assist and link seniors, people with disabilities, and their families with information, opportunities, and services that promote and enhance quality of life, as well as working to meet the local transportation needs of Rockingham County residents. As always, we like to start our show by giving thanks to our local businesses that have supported ADTS over the year through our Community Partner Program. As state and federal dollars remain stagnant, these local businesses are helping expand our ability to meet the ever-growing need in our community. Thank you to Pelham Transportation, Carolina Apothecary, Wells Fargo, Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, Reedsville Area Foundation, Home Trust Bank, CJ Medical, Rockingham County Community Foundation, the North Carolina and Rockingham County Arts Council, Sparks Oil, Church of the Epiphany, Piedmont Natural Gas, Eden Rotary, Reedsville Rotary, Woodmont United Methodist Church, and Plaza Mini Storage, Wilkerson Funeral Home, BB&T, Annie Penn Cone Health, JDK Automotive. We thank you for your continued support. We would also like to give a special thank you to the United Way of Rockingham County for their long time and generous support for our Meals on Wheels program. United Way of Rockingham County brings together local people to help raise local dollars to meet local needs, and we thank everyone that has contributed. Today, my guest is Mark Hensley, Associate State Director of AARP, and Mark is the Community and Outreach and Advocacy Director for the Triad region of AARP North Carolina. Prior to joining AARP team in 2018, he was the Dementia Services Coordinator for the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Aging and Adult Services, where he led efforts to implement North Carolina's first Alzheimer's state plan, including the development of dementia-capable communities across the state. Mark has over 20 years of experience in community-based services for older adults, state policy and legislation, development, compliance monitoring, program development, and grant administration. He holds a Master of Arts degree from Appalachian State University. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you for the opportunity, Ashley.
Absolutely. I've been wanting to have you on this show for a long time, so I'm glad that we were able to get you here today.
Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. Today we're going to talk about livable communities, but before we jump into that and what that concept and initiative is, I thought maybe we might talk a little bit about some of the statistics around aging. When I was doing my research, I came across the fact that 1 in 3 Americans are age 50 and older. So it's definitely something that's going to be an ongoing issue for aging services. And then I read something about 2030, 1 in 5 people in the U.S. will be 65 and older. Wow, that's a large number. That's a very large number. And then I know that we were talking that by 2020, North Carolina counties will have, all of the counties, all 100, will be 65. There'll be more people 65 and older than 18 and younger.
Yes.
Wow. So, it's definitely something that we need to be addressing, and I feel like AARP, as usual, is on the forefront of that. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the initiative that's going on with AARP. So can you tell us about AARP and your role within the nonprofit?
Absolutely. So almost everybody knows who AARP is, but you've seen the commercials. If you think you know who AARP is, you probably don't. First of all, we're not the Old People Association. We're really about focusing on issues for all people as they age, because you can be a caregiver at age 30. You also should be thinking about secure retirement long before you're 50. In the United States, AARP is the second largest membership organization in the country.
Oh, wow.
Do you know who the first membership organization is?
No, what is that?
It's the Catholic Church. But we have grown in relevance over the years. We're actually 60 years old this month.
Oh, wow, that's
So
wonderful.
AARP just turned 60. Our founder was Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus. And Dr. Andrus retired as a school principal in California and found one of her retired school teachers living in a chicken coop.
Oh, wow.
And that was the day that she realized that she truly needed to address the needs of people as they age.
Mm-hmm.
This retired school teacher had a health crisis that wiped out her savings, and that was the beginning of launching an association really focused around then retired teachers, which grew to all retired Americans. So one of our facets is to promote insurance for people as they age, but that's not our primary focus. AARP, like our founder, is about changing the community to make it the best place for all people as they age, regardless of their age.
And your role as the Community and Advocacy Outreach Director, can you speak to us a little bit about what that
Absolutely.
means?
So across the nation, there are thousands of AARP volunteers. I have about 30 that I work with. These are retired professionals that truly want to make their community a better place. We do that through two things. One is community engagement. So volunteers teach classes, they serve on local boards, they are out actually empowering people individually to live their best age through education and empowerment. Secondly is through advocacy. Again, I don't go and lobby in Raleigh or on Capitol Hill. Volunteers go because they are constituents who are concerned about the issues. AARP is about really three things: self, wealth, and health. So we're a nonpartisan 501c3 organization. We do not have a PAC. We do not support a political party or pay funding to any political party. We focus on the issues, and those issues are around caregiving, around retirement and savings, prevention of fraud and scams and identity theft, and the list goes on, but all of these issues are important to all people. And so when we are the loudest voice on Capitol Hill or the loudest voice in Raleigh, we're truly representing the issues that face all Americans.
Truly a grassroots effort.
That's exactly right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Could you paint for us the picture of a typical community nowadays?
Absolutely. Well, growing up in a town very much like Reidsville, a lot of our communities are struggling because textiles and other manufacturing have moved away. And almost every one of our southern towns, you have either lots of farmland that's not being used, you have empty textile mills, and they're really, in my mind, kind of two communities. Those that are struggling to keep their younger people, have them return after college or stay, and also be relevant and supportive of their citizens who have aged in place, and also be attractive to have people move back. So I live in Greensboro. A lot of the volunteers I work with actually have moved from the snowy, cold north or from other parts of this country because our cost of living is really very attractive. So communities are really trying to do two things. They're trying to hold on to what they have and also be relevant and attractive to people once they retire. Here's another interesting statistic, Ashley. The person that will live to be 130 is already born.
Oh, wow.
We're living longer and longer. And so you think about the generation right now that's in elementary school, they're going to have more amenities, they're going to have more lifestyle change opportunities and better medicine. And so living to 100 now, that's not as big a deal as it was 20 years ago because now people are actually working longer into their 70s, sometimes their early 80s, and their life expectancy is much longer. And so communities are truly realizing that you're not going to the rocking chair at 65 because you've only got 10 or 15 years left.
Right.
Our whole nation is truly emerging. It's the age wave. The boomers transformed our communities right after the Second World War. So anyone born between 1946 and 1964 is considered a boomer.
Okay.
We saw schools go up in mass amounts. We saw the development of the neighborhood concept with lots of houses, and urban sprawl began to happen. People moved out of the city into the suburbs. Now we're seeing the reverse because those same boomers today are turning 65 to the tune of 10,000 people a day in the United States. So, how is community changing? People want to live in a community where amenities are close by. So we're going back to the neighborhood concept of having a small grocery store, your pharmacy, those things you need that may be just in walking distance. They don't want to drive 20 or 30 miles. The other thing is, and you and I had talked about this, some of our urban areas had the mega mansion phase just before the real estate market collapsed back around 2010, 2009. People were building these massive houses, but when you're later in life, you want one level living. You don't need 4,000 square feet. And so how are we addressing that? And the fact that the cost of maintaining housing in that way can be very challenging. So we're looking at things like shared housing, or if you're in an area with a university or a community college, student housing actually expanding out into the community where students live with an individual and use the space that they already have. It helps the older adult, it's great for the student, and it's great for the community.
Right. I know there's also something called co-housing that's also becoming really popular, and we discussed that, where you have different people who come in with different abilities being able to contribute to a home setting.
Yeah,
and
we talk about chosen family. So you like to cook and are really good at it. I don't like to cook, but I can mow the grass and I can drive at night because I had my cataracts removed. And so 5 or 6 of us live together, we're all friends and get along. It, first of all, does the main thing about a livable and age-friendly community. It breaks down isolation. Another statistic for you that's just come out, cancer, diabetes, and other heart disease, all of those disparities are not the number one killer in our country. The number one killer is isolation, loneliness. And that is our big goal through AARP, and I know certainly through the work that you do here in the community, is breaking down isolation.
You know, speaking of, I was reading where the Surgeon General mentioned something along the lines of 10 hours of social isolation is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day or something like that.
That's right.
And whenever I go and I share that, everybody just kind of marvels, like, no way, you know, because we've done such a great job of trying to quit smoking, get people to quit, that how can we now have something else that has just as much impact? I know at our adult day center, that's something that we definitely strive, that if you find that senior who tells you the same story over and over and over again, it's not because they have dementia, it's just they haven't had a conversation with somebody in a really long time, and so they really struggle with that. You mentioned something about livable communities, and that's the reason why I had you here today. So can you explain to us and the listeners what the initiative, AARP's initiative for livable communities is?
Livable communities, and sometimes you hear it called age-friendly communities. It's all the same thing, but our goal is, it's our number one priority about creating communities that are safe, walkable, accessible for all people as they age. And one of the reasons this is so important, if you look at the statistics, and I like to look at Rockingham County specifically for this, we're the 9th fastest growing state of people 65 and older. Rockingham County, between now and we used to talk about 2030 like it was never going to get here. Well, you had a statistic about 2020. That's tomorrow.
It is.
So in about 17 years, not that long, Rockingham County's population 75 to 84 will increase by 53%.
Oh, wow.
And then when you look at the 85 and older, we don't cap the age. The growth of 85 and older in Rockingham County is 48%. But here's the interesting statistic. Even though we're growing in population in this state as a whole, actually about 1 million more people will migrate into this state over the next about the next decade. Rockingham County is actually seeing a decline in birth rates and a decline in the middle age, so that's your 45 to 59. But the people that are aging in place, that are staying, that are middle-aged, that's actually where your biggest boom in population is going to be. So you're right on track in Rockingham County. This is going to be another community that is significantly impacted. Go down to Greensboro, the increase in the population increase of 85 and older is 92%.
Oh my goodness.
Because of that immigration.
So it's not an if, it's a when.
It's absolutely a statistical fact. And we have about 25,000 people a year, 65 and older, moving here. They don't want to live in Florida where a hurricane hits both sides of their state at the same time. The cost of living up north is really impacting that people want to come here, and the Triad is very, very attractive. We're close to the mountains, we're close to the beach.
Good health services.
Very good health services. But truly that cost of living and the amenities is something every community needs to be focused on. So this is city planners, mayors and elected officials. And so that leads back to this movement of a livable and age-friendly community. This started in 2006 with the World Health Organization beginning to develop across the world this movement called Livable and Age-Friendly Communities. In 2012, AARP took this on as one of our priorities to not lead, but to foster. So AARP's role is, because of our vast resources, we collect up all of the best practices from around the country and publish those in books that are given out free to planners, to volunteers in the community, whoever wants to lead the effort. There's no right way about doing this. But livable communities are really 8 domains of livability. I like to put those 8 domains into 2 kind of separate categories. The first one are things like what you do every day, is provide supportive services in the community, health services, access to home and community-based services, health and wellness programs for people. That's one. The second is information and referral. Where do you go to get help? So communication and access to resources. Third is transportation. If you can't get out and about by different means, whether it's a bus system or transit that you all provide here, or even Uber and Lyft, but mobility for people. And then the fourth is housing. Affordable housing, appropriate housing, age-friendly housing. I dare anybody listening today to get a walker and try to take it straight into their bathroom. Bathrooms in this country are not built wide enough to get a walker in. We have to address these things. One-level living, a set of stairs, even a step up into your house can be a huge barrier as you age. So that's one of the categories. The second one are broader. Think about getting out of your house and in the community. First is outdoor space and buildings. Do we have elevators available? Is it well lit and you feel safe? Do you have places to sit in a park and be under shade? Because we want people out and about in the community.
Absolutely.
So this is very important to Parks and Recs. We talk about adult playgrounds now, intergenerational playgrounds where you can do stretching, and the equipment's not just for kids anymore. Second is social participation, volunteerism, having people out in the street, out shopping, because the community is open and affirming to offering for, let's say, a caregiver to bring your loved one into the store at special hours when it's a little calmer so they can go and do their holiday shopping. But having opportunities for socialization and also not forgetting about people as they age. Next is respect and social inclusion, and that's really about our communities are a blending pot. There's not going to be a predominant race in just a few years. There's a wonderful program by a professor at UNC Chapel Hill called the Browning and Graying of America. The fact that we are very mixed, and blonde hair, blue-eyed, and Caucasian is not the domination. That we have all types of nationalities that are coming and living here and having opportunities to not only have multicultural but intergenerational programs. And then last is civic participation and employment. Older people have a great deal of wisdom, experience, and we need to play up on that. Often you go to a city council meeting, county commissioners meeting, and those are typically older people that have time for that role in the community. But we
Absolutely.
need those people involved on our boards, and it brings me back to nothing about us without us. So when you're thinking about changing your community, even if you just live in a 3-street community, you want to engage the people that live there. Maybe you start with a neighborhood association, or it may be bigger than that.
Right.
So what kind of things are we talking about? Street calming. Pedestrian deaths are a reality in our country. Do we have enough sidewalks? But also zero visibility. A lot of communities are starting to have task force that address zero visibility, meaning you pull out to a stop sign, but you look to the right and left and you can't really see because of hedges or bushes
Right.
or some signage that is blocking. That they're taking deliberate steps to remove those barriers because that reduces car accidents, which are very, very costly.
Absolutely.
The street calming, tactical urbanism is a real passionate movement now where you block off a street and you may paint a huge butterfly on the street and put in extra bike lanes or places to park bikes or extend the sidewalks and make it very walkable, put some urns and beautification to really alert a driver that this is a crosswalk.
Right.
Don't speed through it. And it's about slowing down. And speaking of slowing down, I just want to mention a statistic that's really something that caught me personally when I heard this. I want everyone to think about how many crosswalks there are in the United States. In big towns and cities, every one of those crosswalks right now are calibrated that a person takes a step every 2 seconds. As this huge wave of people becomes 70, 80, and 90, one thing is you slow down, okay? We're going to have to recalibrate every one of those crosswalks to the fact that the majority of people will be slower and they will be aging, and we need to have crosswalks that are safe and allowable for a person to get from one corner to the other. One other thing about livable and age-friendly communities. This is not about old people. It's about everybody. If you're a mom with a jogging stroller, you want to cut out curbs so you can come off the sidewalk and back up very safely. The same is true for a differently abled person who may have a rolling walker or some type of assisted device. The wider doorways, the same is true for that mom and her stroller. So all of these things are about all of us.
Right.
And you know, there are some real compelling statistics that are out there that AARP does a lot of surveying across the nation. And one of the best statistics we found that 8 in 10 people 45 and older expect to stay in their same home after retirement.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about aging in place, because that definitely creates a whole nother level of issues. And you want to stay in your home, and there's community-based services that can support that to a certain extent.
Well, I want to say something about that right off.
Right.
You guys do a great job in Rockingham County. I mean, truly, I know across the board, you do a good job with trying to find other funding. It is horrifically below the need.
Yes,
we
it
have
is.
had flat funding from the state and federal government for over a decade. And these are services that keep people out of costly institutional care. There can be a time that you need to be in a nursing home, but we truly do not want for people to be pre-institutionalized before they need to be. The way to do that is to have adequate funding for programs like transportation, home-delivered meals, and other supportive programs like adult daycare centers.
Absolutely. We always say no one gets up and goes, my retirement plan is to go into a nursing home. That's never what it is. It's always, how can I stave that off as long as possible? And yet everything seems to want to push people towards that direction. And so, it's definitely something that we have to stay on the forefront of. And I also like how the livable communities are, as you mentioned, it's not just older adults, it's the families as well. Because, if you start building a mall where it's just catering towards older adults, eventually they will no longer be around, and now you have to refocus. So why not take a broader look at things and see how you can build a community starting from the smallest person to the oldest person. And so I think that's a very unique opportunity for livable communities to kind of really restructure how they are addressing that need, so that way they'll be more well-rounded instead of just a single focus. Because as we've learned, textiles leave, things change, and so
right.
We definitely need to be as well-rounded as possible. So I was also going to share or ask you about some of the something called a Livable Index. We only have a few minutes, but can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I want to share a website with your listeners. There is so much information about this that AARP has collected. We have these wonderful books that are free. Visit aarp.org/livable, or you can just type in AARP Livable, and it will take you to a place for all these publications where it talks in depth, but also it talks about the Livability Index. The Livability Index is a fascinating tool that AARP created that pulls in all of the data that's out on the World Wide Web about measuring truly the livability of a community, adequate housing, the unemployment rate, the urban sprawl rate, population numbers, and that is calculated into giving a rating for the community that breaks it into 6 very similar areas like housing, transportation, and that index gives you, without doing the research ourselves, an idea of where you may not be doing that well.
Okay.
And you put it in by zip code. So it's not a town name or a county, but by zip code. And so I'll give you an example. In Winston-Salem, there is a specific zip code where gentrification is happening. And gentrification is basically where an older part of town, usually they're often historic, maybe it's a mill town with a mill village, has people have aged in place, and then younger people, sometimes people with a lot of money, come in and they revitalize. Then the people that live there can't afford to pay their taxes because the value went through the roof.
Right.
This index can really drill down and help you see where you may have a problem with gentrification in your community, and working to have shared space for all people so that older people are not disproportionately hurt by the increase in their property value.
Okay, so if somebody wants to volunteer or wants maybe to come and give a speech to their church or their group, how can they get a hold of you?
Thank you for that. So they can, first of all, email me at mhensley, Hensley, at aarp.org, or call me at 919-798-9424. We come into the community and offer workshops for any group, free of charge, commercial free. We're not selling anything. This is about empowering people to help them live their best age.
Okay, wonderful. And we'll make sure we put that on as well. But that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for listening, and we hope you found the information beneficial. If you'd like to talk to anyone at ADTS about some of this information or to our guests, please reach out, and you can reach us at 336-349-2343. Thank you, and have a good afternoon.